At the Asia Society, we believe that as we begin to talk about Asia's takeoff, and often we refer to the 21st century as the Asia-Pacific century, that in that takeoff, we must focus on what is the role of the 50% or more of the population, and that is women. We also want to think about how women make a difference in this takeoff. Often when we talk about Asia, the discussion about women is primarily around issues around illiteracy, other kinds of issues that are very, very important. But often we don't really talk enough about women as leaders, and that is the purpose of Women Leaders of New Asia. We were very aware that the very idea of building an Asian community is still a somewhat nascent idea. And what I mean by that is that while trade and economics, there's a lot of activity, people-to-people connections are not very strong. I hope that with this third summit, we can begin to really build on the last 2 years. But the thing we want to do most is also begin to identify crucial points of research. What are the things we need to know? How do we learn from each other? What are the best practices that perhaps are happening in one country that we may not be aware of? And ultimately really begin to come up with content and subject matter that would be of interest to women leaders, not only business leaders, that's very important, but also policymakers. Are there countries that are doing better policies around promoting women that other people need to know about? With this summit, there's a unique quality in that we actually have a report coming out, and we want to take that further to see how we begin to create some shared knowledge so that we all can benefit from it. So China has done an amazing job from 1979 when Deng Xiaoping opened China to the world economy. And a number of writers and scholars have pointed out that actually often it was the women workers in places like Guangdong province that actually made a difference in terms of cheap labor and how that was going about. Indeed, by going to a secondary city, we want our women leaders to recognize that China is not just about Shanghai or Beijing. In fact, there is a tremendous amount of activity going on in these other cities. I think that my being a woman of Asian origin does make a difference because I think I bring a slightly different perspective. And that is true of no matter who you are. And a lot of research shows that women, in fact, often are more oriented towards consensus building. They're more oriented towards a more 360-degree view of the organization. And some people have said that, in fact, women by nature are perhaps a little bit more cautious. And I like to think that some of those things that come naturally to women hopefully make for a better 21st century leader. Of course, I'm also willing to be proven wrong.